This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, this is Mel Stone. I am the dark pool moderator with Team Black Box Stocks. Wanted to share some information we have seen today and we have been seeing in regards to some of the short squeeze names, the names that have higher short interest, quote, quote, meme names. However, just kind of wanted to highlight some activity that we have already been noticing and I've been trying to post about as much as possible when we see activity come in on Twitter. Please make sure that you guys are following me. I do post a lot of information. I am at Melstone31 on Twitter. But going to go ahead and jump right in. And I think what kind of kickstarted a bit of this information, even leading up to the activity that we saw today, was AMC. And so I'm going to kind of pop this out. Forgive me, I'm not going to spend time backtracking and going over what a dark pool is. There's plenty resources on my YouTube page that goes into more detail. You can certainly check those out. I'm just want to make sure I'm hitting on some of these names so that there's kind of a bit of an awareness on some activity that we've been seeing that's actually coming in at some decent spots and notable for some individual tickers. So going to kind of try to be as brief and make this as quick as possible. So apologize for not backtracking and giving more information, but again, there are additional resources on my YouTube page. So AMC, this was something we saw come through today. We originally, right out of the gate, and I'm Central Time, my platform will show the timestamp for my current zone. So this is Central. We had 176,000 share block, 3730. Price dipped a little bit. We had another block at 37. And then as price was starting to move up, we got this third dark pool print. And so essentially what's going on is that the dark pool activity that comes through is reported and we get the full feed. So we're able to see everything that's being transacted on a dark pool exchange. So our platform is dedicated to show that activity only. We're not looking for blocks that are occurring on a lit exchange. We're trying to find the stuff that is kind of happening behind the curtain. So this was definitely interesting. Since we don't normally see as much activity in AMC, we already all know that's definitely one of our meme names. What you're able to see here is the transactional detail so you can assess the share size, the notional behind it, and the price. And we don't know if a dark pool is a buy or sell. So we look for these areas to be additional support and resistance. And you can see as we came down, we found support down here at this other level. We dipped a little bit below. I'm trying to, actually, let me put this helps when I have this on. Okay, so we came down, we dipped a little bit below, price accepted above that level, and it was really here where we came back, we tested, I'm sorry, price accepted above, we came back to test this level before we actually started to break out. So that's something that we were looking at throughout the day was how is price reacting at these levels? And not only do we have the insight of the money flow through the dark pool, but we're also able to see how the options market is positioning. So I will jump over there in just one second. But one other thing I want to highlight was it's not necessarily the activity that we had come through today in AMC, but what was more notable, I'm going to go here. We're able to see historical transaction details. So while we have everything that's coming through the screens today, which is all well and good, dark pool activity that still has happened historically will still come into play. Remember, those are additional areas of support and resistance. Dark pools are used by larger market participants, and that's creating volume by price. And price is attracted to larger levels of liquidity. So knowing that larger market participants are using the dark pool to transact trades, we want to be aware of some of the other prints that have come through. So I'm just going to kind of backtrack here so we can look visually and also see the transaction details. I'm just going to be showing activity that's happened for this last month. So I was able to show all of the activity from 8/1 all the way to current. I'm going to pop this chart out again. And while we're able to see the data feed that comes in as it occurs real time, you can also go and backtrack. This is an amazing feature. The proprietary dark pool volume profile overlay is letting us know where activity has been and how price has reacted to those levels. So I'm just going to highlight over here on 8/12 AMC with a 1 million share dark pool print. And while we've seen some speculative smaller size, you can kind of review the transaction details here and see most of these are 100 plus thousand, 200 plus thousand, but we haven't seen this kind of size in AMC. So this was definitely notable when we had 1 million shares come in at 32.36. That was going to be on, let me line this up. This is going to be on 8/12. So we had that come through right here. And as you can see, you've got price that came up, but look where we came back down to find support. We came right back down to essentially just test this level. This is a higher level of liquidity. So we were able to accept above, we've come back to test, and we're able to hold this level as support. And you can see that AMC has moved to the upside. We've got additional area of larger dark pool activity as we've continued to see some smaller transactions come through. And so while this squeeze today, definitely was quite an impact because it made such a larger move. I just kind of want to highlight that there's already been larger money, larger market participants ahead of this activity. And also going to kind of drive your attention right here into the center screen. So not only do we have the dark pool activity, which is essentially more hidden, transacted off of the exchanges. However, they must still record those transactions. We can still see when they report those, but the options market is different. There's not a hidden exchange or everything is lit in the options world. So when you start to see aggressive sweeper activity, and I'm scrolling, like there is just tons, and I'm like right now I've been scrolling for how long, and we're barely at 120 time frame, just to kind of give you an idea. But when they start to aggressively come into a position, you'll see that, and it creates momentum. And essentially what you've got going on is that you now have dealers that have to buy to, like, they want to stay neutral, right? On the flip side, as you have aggressive activity come in, you're now creating volume. This is also what large institutions are looking at, hedge funds are looking at. This is not only information that we're able to trade off, but it's an advantage because we can, because this is activity that's happening on a lit exchange. So just kind of want to walk through some of this activity when we actually, here we go, we're around noon right here when we accepted above that dark pool print. So this is about 12:11. You can see there was already some activity kind of starting to come into this week's, the 8/27, $40 calls. We were seeing them come through for 86 cents, 87 cents, 77 cents. And then we really started to move quickly once we got around 11:45, $1, $1.20, $1.30. But what I want to kind of draw your attention to is how they are continuing to pay up as they sweep into this strike and expiration. So again, we're same strike and expiration where we were originally seeing activity come in for about 87 cents. And as I scroll through here, they continued to pay up. And one thing you'll note is that IV is increasing. Now that you have this much interest coming into in equity, you have this volatility increasing, which means these contracts start to juice 120, 130, paying 194, 277, 232, 260, 305, and we're just continuing to go up. And this is actually pretty amazing to see. We're calling this out on voice as it happened, but you had contracts that were trading originally when they came in for 86 cents go all the way up to $8.49. So just kind of highlighting some of the options activity. I will run through a few other names. I will not be going through the options flow just so that we can kind of stay on point. So a few other names that have been interesting to me is BYND. We are showing the historical, so I'm going to go ahead and pop this chart out. What you can see right now, when we have this screen zoomed in, we did have dark pool activity today. We had 150,000 shares at 122.79. Price was able to hold and close above. This was kind of already one that was on my radar because yesterday, again, we had dark pool activity, 200,000 shares at 121.01. And while these may seem smaller notionally, one thing to note is that BYND does not see a lot of activity. So again, I'm showing you every bit of historical information here all the way back to August 1st. And this is just not a name that sees very large size in the dark pool. But I do find it interesting because reviewing the historical, back on 8/4, there was 500,000 share dark pool print at 121. I'm just going to change this time frame so we can see how price has reacted around those levels and see if we're trading above and below. And here you go. You can see that this is that larger level. It definitely shows and sticks out because you have larger volume at this price. And while we were not able to originally hold, price has now accepted above. So this has been a level that I've been watching for us to be able to maintain price action above. There is going to be a little bit of resistance as we get here in this 120. What do we have here? About 129. So I've got a little bit more activity. And it's not only just for your intraday charts. Do just want to kind of show this off because you can also review your daily and you can get a bigger view. And this is actually interesting to see that we kind of have this range, but we have had a lot of dark pool activity as BYND has continued to bounce between these levels. So would definitely be interested in making sure I have alerts set for when we cross over this 150 level, because it seems like we've had a lot of institutional presence here, a lot of institutional interest between this range. So BYND does have 20% short interest on a 56 million float. Let's jump over to WOOF. WOOF, I hate that name. I hate saying that name. Let's see here, WOOF. Again, we're showing not only the activity that has occurred today, also the historical. And just to mention that there was no dark pool activity that happened today. The charts are set up to show your intraday. It will put a little note down here, not enough dark pool activity. All it's telling you that there is nothing that has come through the tape today. However, Friday was extremely interesting because we had large size. And so let me go back here and jump to let me do a 5-minute chart. I'm going to pop this chart out. Okay, so you can see here on 8/20, we had a 1.25 million share dark pool print at 21.70, and then a 2.35 million share dark pool print at 21.60. So really tight price ranges. We were able to hold price action above those levels, and we've kind of been building out this range. But let's say you don't know if that's unusual for this ticker. First off, you can go to your transaction details. Again, I've clicked over here to history. I'm looking up everything that's happened in August. So I just started with August 1st. I can certainly go back further if I wanted to. But just to kind of denote and show why that is so unusual, I keep FinViz up because I love the interface. It's a free tool. You get to see an overview of the chart. I think it's also very helpful to be able to see what industry and sector the underlining is in. But you can also go right here and you can see how many shares are in the float and then what percentage is short. This information is updated twice a month. So just gonna kind of draw your attention and squirrel here a little bit. Here is the short interest reporting calendar per FINRA. So the information that we're seeing right now, okay, was just updated today. So that gets pushed through to all the various venues that kind of house that information. It's a requirement that short interest information is updated 2 times a month. So you can see here's the schedule for August and as we continue through the rest of the year. But back to what made the dark pool activity that we saw last Friday, 820, so unusual in WOOF. This only trades on average 3.85 million shares. So prospectively, when we go back and we review what's come through, you had a 2.3 million share and a 1.2 million share. The dark pool activity that we saw on Friday in and of itself pretty much is exceeding or meets what the whole day's average volume is. So you have above average volume, and that's what we're trying to pay attention to. We're not trying to discern, is this a buy or a sell? We want to be able to use these as additional levels of support and resistance. But I think that it's easy to see when you review this chart that they just came in right here at an area of previous support. This is definitely interesting, and this is what I like to see. You see how we've had several touches here as a support area, strong support, strong support, strong support. And as we come and bounce right off, this is an area where we're seeing some activity. In areas of support is when I like to pay attention. Way up here, I'm just a little bit more apprehensive when we start to see activity, because I like to see that they're coming in at a technical level. Our chart is going to be our ultimate guide for our entries and exits, but this does kind of bring up a good point. We've bounced here, we've accepted above, had an inside day, price trying to break this level. So this is this bigger area, but we do have a volume point of control up here at 2274. So again, price is attracted to larger levels where it can trade, and that's based off of volume and price. So another level here at 2276. So this is definitely a stock I'm interested in looking at potentially swinging for some possible upside. However, we do not know if those dark pool prints are buys or sells. So I'm putting this level on my chart so that I can continue to monitor how price reacts at those levels. So here you can see that I have my note over here. We're just kind of bouncing around. Should we end up rejecting, I would look to be able to go short for a potential target down here back at support. So not anything I'm trying to have a bias on, because essentially we can just continue to stay range bound, especially if you're trading options. Time has to be, you've got to be right on your timing. And time is not your side, not a friend at all. Common shares, you can have a little bit more wiggle room, manage those positions. But if you are trading options, especially if you're shorter dated, if this starts to go against you and we cannot maintain and hold above this price, definitely do not just stay in a position that's moving against you. But again, this is definitely a spot where there's going to be activity that will still be revisited. So this creates, like I said, a whole nother area of support and resistance, because we have larger market participants active at this area. Price is attracted to where it can trade, and it looks for those larger volume levels. So going to move a little bit quicker here just so I can make sure to highlight all of the other tickers that I had. Okay, so JMIA, have not heard much in this name. This one has just kind of been bleeding down. However, do just want to note that we did have dark pool activity yesterday. Again, another ticker we don't see a lot of activity in, 500,000 shares at 1794. Price was able to hold above it. So this was activity yesterday, displaying on the screen today. And you can see that price has found acceptance above. JMIA, also an interesting one as it pulls down to an area of support. This is actually the volume point of control. So I don't even have any added lines in here. This is just, you can see this area where there's been a concentrated of volume by price. So looking for this to potentially hold this area and bounce up. Should this be signs of accumulation. However, if this level is not able to hold, we do have some areas we can map up for some downside as well. Okay, let's take a look at NKLA. Was kind of surprised to see this one come through, but again, it doesn't matter. it is what it is, knowing that they've got just a whole bunch of problems. But yesterday we had 500,000 shares, NKLA at 985. So just another bigger picture view to be able to show no dark pool activity today, but you can see that this level absolutely did come into play. So I'm going to mark this on your chart so you can see how we're actually using this intraday. This was originally an area where we came up to test. And again, this is yesterday's activity, 985, price originally rejected. And as we came up, it was finding this as an area of resistance, pulled back before it actually was able to accept price above and just took off. Let's talk about Mankind, because this is definitely not a name that we see. However, had dark pool activity today, 1 million shares, and this is just, they've already reported, so it's interesting to see this name because it is so rare. I looked up the short interest. You've got 13% short on 235 million share float. So just going to give you guys a quick little overview. And members, make sure that you're using this feature. This is amazing. So while we've had some activity come in today down here at this 447, we can see that this 475 is going to be an area where we may find some potential resistance. So keep that in mind and then go through your larger time frames. But MNKD is not a name that you see often. Again, I'm showing you all of the activity that's happened for this month. It's rare to see activity in that name. Let's go to TTCF, Tattoo Chef. So this is one I'm going for full disclosure. I do have an active position in this name, but do want to make sure that I'm covering this one because I did find it extremely interesting. Last Friday, we had a 1.5 million share dark pool print at $17. Before that, they were already starting to come in with not as much size. I definitely made sure that members knew and called that out on voice. This is not a name that we see often. So even seeing 400,000 or this 335,000 was definitely worth noting because again, a name we do not see a lot of activity in. So we are currently here on the 15-minute chart. You can see these levels. This acted as an area of support where there was a bit of a double bottom. We moved up, price accepted above. And then here's this larger 1.5 million shares on TTCF. So again, we don't know if that is a buy or a sell. Let's just take a look and see what the short interest is. First, going to check off here, average volume, 1.66 million shares. So again, this is size for TTCF. And while we don't know whether this was a buy or sell, it's saying pay attention. Pay attention, look at your chart, get your levels marked up, get alerts in. And especially when you go here and you see that this is a smaller float with only 37 million and 31% short interest. So here we're able to come down, bounce off of this support area, and we are going into a gap fill with some resistance up here at the 21 level. So if this continues to go, knowing that we've got an increase in volume, definitely keep this one on your watch list. Members, just so that you know, I'm going to kind of bounce Discord over here. The dark pool data room, I shared this information, which is showing the high short float. It's actually, it's going to be short interest, 15% or greater, price above 5, average volume 1 million plus and optionable. I have the full report there for you to review with some additional columns that may be helpful. I pulled that off of FinViz and also shared that on Twitter. So make sure you guys go and find that so you can kind of have an idea of what names have that higher short interest. So as you're watching the options flow or as you're seeing dark pool activity, it's just kind of raising a red flag saying, hey, look at me, pay attention, what's going on here. And what I like to do is just put alerts on technical levels. So again, we don't know if that's a buy or a sell, but being prepared should there be the potential for a short squeeze or activity coming into your name, you have your levels, your chart is mapped out. I did share a trade idea on BYND. This is the daily view. So from a technical perspective, we're starting to turn up here on the PPO. we've got this falling wedge on the daily. And if I put my 8 and 21 EMAs on, price is accepting above. So I do like that. And then also added some levels and shared that from a 1 hour perspective, some levels of interest, just kind of mapping out some current levels of support and resistance. So if this happens, and that's just what I wait for. No need to front run this. We could very easily come right up here. We are coming up to an area of trend line resistance that has already acted as a resistance level before. We could absolutely come up here and reject and start to see activity to the downside. I'm okay with either way. I'm not starting any day with a bias, just like to be able to be aware when we start to see these scenarios, but just kind of thought it would be worth sharing and making sure that you all were aware that there has already been some activity. And while this may seem to be that quote, quote, meme stock, just kind of know that there's already been some larger market participation in and what levels they were active in. So I appreciate you all taking the time. There will be a link below so that you can take 20% off your first month with Black Box Stocks should you be interested. Members, make sure you're coming over here. You're changing your time frame so that you can get additional information and that you are actually hitting this history so that you can see some of this historical dark pool activity. You guys have a good night and we'll check in with you later.